Hello, it's Colleen Mitchell with CMG Home Loans, and I am here with Angela Jaspin, and we are Homes and Loans. Today we're going to talk about,
It's okay. Taxes, homesteads, how they affect the loan. Yeah.
Today we want to talk about the importance of closing before the end of the year for the homestead exemption. So we have buyers and sellers that are contemplating, should I buy, should I sell? And is this a good time of year? If you're wanting to buy a new primary residence, one thing you need to consider is the homestead exemption, where you get a discount on your property taxes, and you'd have to close by the end of the year in order to qualify for next year. So if you want to elaborate a little more.
Yeah, sure. So a couple different things. I do find that clients generally want to close before the end, more serious clients, I would say.
Right.
Some people back off because it's the holidays and they want to wait until the first of the year, but more serious buyers and sellers want to close before the end of the year for tax purposes, not
Correct.
only the homestead, but just for tax purposes in general.
Right.
And as far as the homestead, that you have to close by the end of the year, but they have until March 31st to file it.
For the following year, yes.
For the following year. And then it doesn't go into effect until that November when they're looking at things because they're going to reassess properties.
Because sometimes it can make a huge difference in your property taxes.
A huge difference. I think one thing that people don't understand, which is the biggest component of this, is that, your homestead, just so you understand, is a tax benefit if you live in the property as your primary residence. Okay, yes. So you can't have a homestead on every property you own. It has to be on your primary residence. And so by doing that, you usually get a $25,000 deduction off the assessed value, and then another $25,000 for like the home. So generally, you get yourself $50,000
an exemption.
Yeah. And then there are additional exemptions.
Yeah. So like if you're a disabled veteran, you get an extra $5,000. If you are seniors. They get
over 65.
Over 65,
if
get
you're
an
blind,
additional exemption.
there's a bunch of different reasons, and you'll fill out the form. So generally what happens is, so when I close on a deal with a client, we always send them an email being like, here's your reminder to file for your homestead.
Well.
Yeah, because it's just important. You do not, the biggest thing I think people don't understand is so the Save Our Homes Act, just to back up for a second, states that the property taxes can't increase by more than 3% a year on your homestead. Okay,
Correct.
So you're capped at 3%, which is wonderful, except there's one exception, and that's when you have a new owner. So if someone owned that property and they bought it in 1975 for $50,000, and then you bought it from them in 2025 for $600,000, okay, the taxes might be like $200 because they're just paying since 75, okay? 3% increases, not that much, okay? But now you're going to be reassessed at the new sales price at whatever, $600,000. So your taxes are going to go up substantially. And that 3% cap doesn't go into effect until after that first original new assessment happens.
Yeah, and we a lot of times we will estimate those taxes for the new homeowner because we don't want them to be surprised.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to have a huge escrow deficiency.
Huge shortage, and trust me, I've gotten those phone calls. Even those clients that we counsel and tell them about applying for their homestead and they forget, and then they get that big tax bill, and then they're calling me going, hey, what happened? Why do I have this escrow shortage?
Yeah.
So then we have to kind of go back, and then I realize, you didn't file for that homestead.
While we're on this, can you explain what happens when someone has an escrow shortage?
So when you have an escrow shortage, you have the option to pay the escrow shortage up front, or we'll take it and divide it by 12 and add it into your monthly payment.
So it's like you can say they said it's another $2,000. You can do a lump sum, or they're going to add another $100, $150 to your monthly escrow balance that they're going to hold until it's due every year.
And for some folks, that's hard for them to pay that shortage plus the increase in their property taxes.
Oh, yeah.
So it could be a big financial strain for somebody that gets that
wasn't
increase.
Anticipating that.
Right.
For sure. Correct. And that's why, it's funny because when I send buyers like to you to get qualified, and you always ask me, what are the taxes? And then you're going to try and calculate them based on what the new sales price will be.
We let them know that, but from the lending side, we use the previous tax bill for the loan. But we let them know up front, hey,
it's going to be adjusted.
This was assessed at $200,000 and you're paying $5,000, so you're going to have a huge increase. So we want to make sure that our buyers are informed of what that tax bill is going to look like.
It's so funny when I think back to when I was looking at properties with my husband when we sold our last house, and every house we would go to, no matter how wonderful it was or not, he would say to me, what are the
What
taxes?
taxes?
What are the taxes? Because even if we pay this puppy off, we still have taxes.
Exactly.
And it's so discouraging. On a side note, I super hope that this new getting rid of property taxes for homestead buyers passes next year. Please vote for it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm being, a little naive about it, but the idea of not having to pay property taxes on a property I own.
Just imagine what that could do for home buyers.
Oh, it's amazing.
I mean, taxes and insurance are such an issue right now.
Especially in Florida.
So,
Insurance alone is a huge issue. So you think if you could at least take, even on an average home, you're spending $5,000 a year on your real estate taxes. On most homes in, say, the Windermere area where I am, I mean, that is upwards of $15,000 a year. So even when your house is paid off, you are literally paying over, $1,500, $1,000 a month in perpetuity forever for a house you own to the government.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I mean,
my son recently bought a house and he's 100% disabled.
Yep.
So he was able to qualify for a much bigger home only because he wasn't having to pay property taxes. So I feel like that would be such a win-win if that happens.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know that it will, but let's hope.
I hope so. I got to tell you, I'm really hoping for that one. I mean, we have a lot of, tourism here, and so I'm hoping we can make that money up somewhere else.
Yeah.
But again, it's not going to be
Fingers
for
crossed.
everybody. It's going to be just for homeowners or over 65 is what I'm hearing. I don't know what the...
Hey, that would even be fine.
Yeah,
too.
I think that's fine too.
I think it would be good.
So, anyway, another big aspect of the homestead thing, what we were saying, by closing by the end of the year
Right.
and filing by March 31st, is this thing called portability, which I think a lot of people don't know, don't understand. I didn't know it until I personally went through it, and it was a pain. So I've always told my clients, make sure you file for your homestead so you can get that discount on the assessed value and bring your tax bill down. What I didn't understand until recently was the portability part of that. So basically, if you lived in a homestead, another property is your primary, and then you sell it to buy another primary, you can take the difference of that property and they add it onto your new property. And let me give you a little example so the people listening can kind of understand. And so if you owned a property for several years like I did, and when I bought it, it was assessed at $400, and when I sold it, it was assessed at $650. They take that difference of $250,000, right? And then I ended up buying a bigger property, okay? And so if now my property is assessed at $1 million, right, for example's sake, then they take that $250 off, and then I'm only assessed at the $750, and so that's a huge
I did the same thing. I saved a lot by porting my taxes.
So you have to know to port your taxes, and I feel like people don't understand that, where you're literally, that's $250,000 in this example that you're not going to pay taxes. That's probably $5,000 in your tax bill.
Yeah.
So I mean, and people don't talk about it, and it's such a big deal. And I got my tax bill, and I was like, how did this go up 55%? My tax bill went up 55%, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, this is not okay. And then so I get on the phone with them and we're talking through it, and then she says, well, you'll be better off to go in. I go into the tax collector, and then another surprise. So we put our house in the name of a trust, which I think most people do, especially if you own multiple properties.
Thought it was a new sale?
What?
Did they think it was a new sale?
And it was a new sale from last year, but because the name was in the trust, and when I had filled out the homestead paperwork, I put my husband's name down, right? Because it's really, you had to put someone's information, but it's really under the trust, which is both of us.
Right.
So then they told me, no, you only get 50% because you didn't put your name on it. I'm like, well, where does it tell me I have to put my name on it when it's the trust? So they were like, well, we will apply it next year. So for a whole year, we're paying taxes on another $100,000. So then you have to go through and dispute it. So there are things you can do. The big takeaway from this is if you recently filed for your homestead, and you didn't know about the portability, and now your tax bill went way up, go back and look at it. Go back and look at the property you sold and the difference of the assessed value.
Go make an appointment and go in person.
Yep. Make an appointment and go in person for 100%. But you have 3 years to transfer the portability, which I think a lot of people don't know. So even if you filed your homestead, you didn't know about the portability aspect of it, it could bring down your taxes immensely.
Yeah.
So you have 3 years. Don't miss that cutoff. Make sure that if it's you and your husband, you have to put both your names on the application, which I learned the hard way a few days ago. So
Right.
hopefully-
And when you add someone to your deed,
Mm-hmm.
and if they're not living in the property, unfortunately, that takes away part of your homestead.
Yeah.
So if you have like a parent co-signing or something like that, you can actually leave that person off the deed. And I highly recommend that, because I did have a client who added their parent, and then they only got half of their homestead exemption.
because the parents have their own homestead.
Because they have their own homestead.
Yeah.
So we can leave the parent or the co-signer off the deed. So
Yeah.
that's important too.
That is important because again, you don't want to take away their homestead and they don't want to
Right.
take away yours. Because you're both living in your own
Correct.
properties. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, guys, I hope you took away some valuable information in that
Lots
one
of
because
info.
that was a learning curve for me for sure. And I've been in the business a long time,
Yeah.
but hopefully we keep providing you with great information and you keep listening and we will see you next time. Hopefully stay tuned.
Thank you.